Hello again, everyone. Thanks for staying for the last talk of the day. So in this talk, I'll talk about everything that touch ethics in the workplace. So I don't know how many of you are still students. No students anymore? That's interesting. Okay. So like the subtitle of the talk was all the things I wish I knew when I still was a student. So I'm Eric. I'm the founder of a software consulting company, and you can find me at Eric Gazini on Twitter, GitHub, whatever. So I've been a consultant for 13 years now. I'm not getting any younger, including 5 as an employee. That's important. I've worked in a lot of different industries, and I receive, now I'm the boss of the company, I receive an average of 20 applications per month. So what's going to follow is from my personal experience and things I've witnessed myself. It's not a scientific study about ethical behavior in the workplace. So you should make your own opinion. So what brought you in IT first? Maybe it was maybe it was like you wanted to earn more money, or maybe you played with computers when you were kids with your parents, or maybe you were fascinated by all these blinking screens. So all of us came for a reason in the first place. Usually ethics is quite of an overlooked field when you try to get into IT. So what's ethics? Ethics, it's the study of the principle relating to the right and wrong conduct, or morality. What's about, say, in IT careers in 2018? So you can either, after you graduated, work for a product company, say like Spotify or GitHub or whatever. Usually the pros include like you will know one product in depth. You will find some kind of team spirit centered around the product. You'll get into interesting and niche issues, and sometimes you will be able to contribute back to open source software. The cons are that usually it involves maintaining the said product for some time, which is a bit less sexy than just creating new features all the time. You also get commercial pressure. Your success like in this business depends on the success of your product. And sometimes it's unfortunately also depending on the marketing around this. So you might even build a good product but not get any success because the marketing is done poorly. You may also choose to enter a corporation where the bigger the company, the lower the expectations. So if you're not the best student in the class, you still have some openings in large companies. You will get a lot of diversity because, yeah, these large companies are like getting a lot of applicants from very different horizons. So you might meet people that you wouldn't be able to meet outside of your job. Usually money is a key factor in working for corporations, as well as job security. On the other hand, there's a lot of bureaucracy involved. You need to be ready to face some political pressure from like different teams or different departments and so on. You get often arbitrary management pressure, like this has to be done by Monday. Why Monday? Because. And it's pretty difficult to identify success or goals because you're in such big structure that identifying really like, am I successful? Even if you're successful at your scale, are you bringing value to your company? It's a bit complicated to know what's your influence on the global success of the corporation. You can also go and for a large consulting firm. So there are many on the market these days. Usually money is the main factor. They will literally pour money over your head, give you cars, and you get to see a lot of land, or you get introduced to many different industries. On the other hand, it's basically the equivalent of modern slavery on all sense that it can bear. The turnover are usually high because people get quickly upset with their working conditions. There is usually a low technical competency within the company because usually when you are getting good enough on the technical field, then you realize that you're basically being enslaved, and then most successful engineers leave the company pretty early. So you're just remaining with the ones who haven't yet figured out that they were good. And usually either you get out broken of this, like in depression, and you want just to raise sheep in the south of France, or you just get a mercenary, you embrace the fact that money is the center of everything, and that's not the most ethical outcome. You can also work for a non-software company but still doing software development. Then you're part of a greater scheme. Let's say like you work for a printer, or you work for an editor of magazines. There you're part of something else. You get a short feedback loop because you're usually working in straight collaboration with your co-workers, which come from different fields. Usually the teams are smaller, but the turnover is also lower. On the other hand, you're competing for the same resources, I mean money, with the other activities of the company. So maybe if you work at like a newspaper, maybe the printing department needs more money, and so it's being sucked out of IT. And unfortunately, the in-house IT ways are not always consistent with the industry standards. Or you can do freelancing. Freelancing, it has one big advantage: it's money. On the other hand, you get a lot of interesting side effects like legal responsibility, the duty of ensuring marketing, sales, all the tax fun stuff, and you get a direct competition because as a freelancer, you're basically competing as of now with a global, and I mean global like at Earth scale, with an immense pool of other freelancers which are as qualified as you are. So for students planning your career, first thing you should do is working on yourself. You should know yourself, like really think about it, find your weak spots and really work on them. That's what's going to bring the most the most benefits. Be social, join a student association or clubs, or organize meetups. If you're an introvert, we are all a bit of introverts in this field. Don't hesitate to be social. Then also build your portfolio. There is a very large maker and do-it-yourself community. There's a large open source software community we are part of. Or you can also try your luck and work for non-governmental organizations or charity. All of this stuff matter in the eye of a recruiter because it shows that you're doing not what you have to do, but also you're also thinking about others. Applying for a job. So you get maybe two different choices. The easy one is just falling for recruiters. Usually they have low technical knowledge. You will spot them very easily because the contact you will have with them looks a lot like spam. The mindset behind their activity is usually they just want to sell the person, like the engineers, as fast as they can and leave with the money. They will always fill your resume with buzzwords and pimp your qualification without your consent. Like I've been with a lot of junior developers that were labeled as Python experts and not having ever written a single line of Python. So nope. Or you can do your own self-search. Twitter, LinkedIn, Monster, Indeed, or even Hacker News. Yes, you need to do it yourself, but you'll get a lot more accurate results from there, and at least you're in control of what's happening. So what recruiters are looking for in a CV, or at least what I'm looking for in a CV. If you're not joining a cover letter, so some people will tell you, yeah, it's very old-fashioned to put a cover letter, but for me, no cover letter means spam. It means like this person is really going for the quantity and not picking which company he wants to work for. So I know, I've been there too, I have also applied for jobs. So I know it's pretty tempting to go harvest a bunch of companies that basically do IT and just spray your resumes there. But me as an employer, I don't see why should I go for this person that's not even saying, yeah, I want to work with you, I just want to work. Okay, but then it's not very tempting for me. I don't care if it's I don't care if it's within the email. I even prefer, because that's 2 clicks less for me to read your motivation. It's a bit cheating to start your motivational by "Dear company." Like it's a bit better if it's a bit more customized. And even bonus points if you're just saying me, oh yeah, I liked a lot this project that you did because it matches like my master thesis, or it matches what I've done here, or like that's very important for me. I'm also interested in your character. So pictures, yeah, it's not required, but it helps putting a face on name, because when I'm going through like all the CVs, sometimes I realize, oh yeah, this guy, yeah, it's easier for me to remember a CV which has a picture. But definitely, I know some people are not comfortable with putting as their picture because of discrimination. I'll go on there later. So I completely understand. It's just like it's easier for me. And if you have a very common name, please include a link to your own online persona. So if I Google your name, I'm not going to find 50 different guys wearing the same name, and some which might have like less respectable online persona. Like if you have a GitHub which is pretty good, and another guy which has the same name as you do, but has also a GitHub which is pretty bad, I don't want to have to pick which one am I going to hire. Spelling. If unsure, applying in English, at least in Belgium. If you have just one shot, so check spelling and grammar twice, please. Of course, technical skills. Be honest, really, because it shows during the interviews. Only list if it's a professional proficiency. Like I've opened once a Python interpreter is not like I'm qualified in Python. Also avoid buzzwords because it smells. And you can break a requirement, like, okay, you need, let's say, 2 years of practice of Python. Okay, I just did 1 year, but I've written this huge library. It's actually a plus. Like you don't have, you didn't spend too long with the language, but you achieved a lot. So that's, if you can justify why you didn't fulfill a requirement, it's always something that I am careful about. Job interviews. It's a very common issue to face discrimination. So I'm a white young male, so I did not felt discrimination when I was interviewed, but I know a lot of people who have been discriminated because of the gender or perceived sexual preferences or family situation or the fact they have children. You must know that it is absolutely forbidden by law. So here is the link. So the FIDICT one is the link for the federation that takes care especially of discrimination against gender and family. If you've been discriminated for different other reasons, being skin color, place of birth, cultural background, or handicap, UNIA is also an association that's taking care of fighting against discrimination for those reasons. Job interviews, how to attend job interviews. Be relaxed, seriously. I meet a lot of candidates that are very stressed on their job interview. Usually people are not going to bite you. It's only a job. You're not playing your whole life every time you apply for a job. Just smile and remember what you replied at my first slide, like when I was asking what brought you in IT first. Feel okay to say I'm not comfortable with discussing this topic, because sometimes recruiters try to trap you or something. It's okay to say I don't want to go on that ground. And examine while you're being interviewed how they interview and how they value the candidates they have, because in this situation you are also evaluating the company. It's not a one-way street. Sometimes you'll find people who think it's that makes sense to spend a lot of time doing Mensa tests or logic puzzles, or whiteboard coding, or having you answer multiple choice questions. You just have to understand that it's easier for them to screen for candidates because they can dispatch a lot more candidates rather than having a 1-hour chat with all of them and trying to find relevant questions. Again, it's always a matter of quantity versus quality of candidates. If you do good screening beforehand, or if you have sufficient capacity to screen your candidates, you might not need to do those tests. Those tests, they only capture your fitness to an imaginary model that these people think is the kind of employee they want to hire. It's not representative of your actual abilities. Again, failing them is perfectly okay. You're not a bad person for failing Mensa tests. Now, once you have the job, sometimes you'll hear stuff like, yeah, we only work with long-term freelancers. There's no such thing as long-term freelancer. You won't get job security, you will have a lower legal protection, but they will wave money in front of your nose. Don't fall for it, it's not worth it. The bait and switch. Yeah, you will receive internal training, or more sneaky, you will be coding on your next project. But for now, we need you to spend time as an administrative assistant for a few months. Turns out, never happens. The salary scam. Yeah, you will start with a 2-month internship, of course not paid. Or, oh yeah, but yeah, we don't pay overtime. Yeah, you have to pay overtime, it's not. Or, yeah, I know the salary is low, but we will give you shares of the company, which ends up not showing up ever. The golden handcuffs. Yeah, surprisingly, you get at a company which has the salaries twice what the competitors offers. There's a lot of paid holidays, free food, video games, luxury company cars, and stock options. Why would you want to leave? Even if the company turns out being very toxic, or I'm not saying this is the case, but I mean, these are very strong retention maneuvers. You might want to question, why is a company, like what are the real motivations behind a company offering that much to employees? What are they afraid of? Harassment is something which is a pretty sensitive topic. So the pretty obvious personal attacks on origin, religion, culture, language. In Belgium here, it's pretty common to have objections about people not speaking Dutch or French or German or English or whatever. Personal attacks on physical condition or physical shape or perceived intellectual abilities. Having inappropriate language or gesture, or just basically asking out people. So this is not okay. Harassment is never okay. You just contact your HR manager, salesperson immediately. And you don't try to explain, yeah, but this person did this. No, there's no excuse for that behavior. Abuse, blatant abuse. Take your laptop with you on vacation in case we need you. Vacations are made for taking vacation and resting out of work. If you're on Slack on the beach, then this is abuse. Like, some people find it's hard to disconnect, But like if it's a business, if it's a manager requirement, this is abuse. Since we provide you with a phone, you should be reachable at all time. Hell no. Please dress more feminine for ladies. No. This is again abuse. It's not necessary for your work to dress in a way or another. Unethical behavior. Sometimes you might work for, let's say, a car manufacturer that will ask you to game code that would conceal CO2 emissions in your cars. That's pretty unethical. Stealing and selling personal information collected by, let's say, running a social network. Reading customer private messages. Not working too fast so the mission lasts longer, which is a common attitude in consulting companies. Or selling unnecessary software to naive customers. Like, yeah, you have this piece of software, but you should definitely have that piece of software, which is very costly, but because, yeah, you need it. A few signs your job is killing you. The overperformer burnout. If you hear stuff like, yeah, you never disappointed us so far, or you're really our only hope. If you're feeling oppressed or having anxiety or panic attack, then you might be in the situation where you're trying to do too much. In this case, remember to delegate, set clear expectations from people asking you too much, and stand for yourself, like no working on the weekend or yeah, finishing up things up until 2 in the morning is not healthy. People asking you, oh, you took your afternoon off at 5 p.m. Or everyone will have to do overtime from now for, let's say, 6 months. This is the sign of the death march. You're tempted to sleep at your desk to save up on commuting time, and your personal hygiene is time wasted. Definitely you're in a death march mode. This is also very unhealthy. Overtime is not a fix for poor planning. Like proper resource management, expectation management is. And schedules can always be changed. One more beer. When you start drinking every day, and then maybe one drink after the other, or you need to drink to relax after work, yeah, why not? And you start contemplating substance abuse, and your relatives are being worried for your health, then also you might be exposed to an unhealthy amount of stress. Preferably discuss it with your family doctor just to identify why you're feeling that need of relaxing with a beer or substances. The dead end, like nothing to do for most of the day. Your supervisor doesn't even care if you work or not at your desk. You might be just watching videos for the whole day and nobody would care. Or you start wondering about your purpose in life. Then this is either harassment or your job is just bogus. So yeah, here I would definitely advise for quitting the job. The scapegoat, you're globally criticized without any specific details. You're always working alone on failing project by coincidence. And you start shutting yourself and refusing to talk to others. That's another form of harassment. This is a bit complicated, so you should definitely seek help from HR or management if you find yourself in this situation, because it's not, they might not be aware of that, but sometimes it's made on purpose to punish people. Please don't, once you get a job or a leading position, don't become part of the problem. Some jokes are not funny at all. Racial, physical, sexual jokes are not appropriate in a working environment. And please think before you speak, because you might be offending people without even realizing it. If you hear or are being witness of like inappropriate behavior and so on, it's very acceptable to just correct people and say, yeah, I think you're going a bit too far there, or yeah, this is not very nice, you should think a bit about what you just said. I know it sounds like lecturing, but please don't allow people to just feel like they're entitled to say or to act this way. Entitlement, well, of course, after you get your job, then you can start being picky about, yeah, we only hire people with that kind of degrees, or we only hire males or females or whatever, or we only hire people below 50 or 40, or we only hire people from Europe, or we only hire people who, so no, this is entitlement. Wonder yourself, if those rules had been in place when I was hired, when I was looking myself for a job, would I have been selected and hired myself? Put yourself in other shoes from time to time. Be a decent human being. Like sentences I don't hear often enough are, sorry, I was wrong earlier. Like, yeah, losing an argument, it's not losing face or anything, it's just like, yeah, you can apologize and it's okay. Or, yeah, initially it looked very simple, but am I missing a critical detail? People are not usually that stupid. If you see that someone is making a stupid mistake, maybe you're missing a key element, or maybe you saw something that he didn't. So usually starting a conversation and say, yeah, can you please explain to me, because it looks terribly simple, you might start an interesting conversation. Or is there something I can do to help you? Like if someone is slacking on your job or something, or late, turning on assignments, yeah, how can I help you do something? Making money while doing open source software. So it's kind of joining the first talk we had today. Yeah, so you can have integrators, company providing support for custom development around an existing software, which turns out to be open source. Like, you can also get commission work, being part or maintaining a large open source project. You might also receive requests for developing new features on an existing code base. Grants, so many different types of organizations, university, foundations, and companies spend research funds to finance open source software that fills specific needs. And especially the Mozilla Foundation finance the Django project, and also the PSF globally. So you can find a full list. So there's this lady, Nadia Iqbal. She compiled the guide for financing your open source work. And she has a ton of ideas and examples of how you can generate revenue from open source works, from a donation button on your GitHub page to funding a company. So be sure to check the project, please. To end the talk, I'm just quoting Charlie Chaplin, because I think it was written in 1940, but it still has an echo now. So it's part of the Great Dictator speech. He says, "We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Or knowledge has made us cynical, or cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness." It's not because we are maybe introverts and we have it easy with the machines that we should become machines ourselves. Any questions? No. Okay, thank you very much.